Right. So Mercury may be retrograde, but why am I sitting in the dark if Mercury is the closest planet to the sun? Well, stay tuned and I'll let you know because we've got this and all sorts of other things coming up on this weekly AstroCat report. All right, so Shane here with dailyastrocat.com. We started off with the Little Darkness mystery. We're going to be talking about a little bit about Mercury retrograde. We're going to talk about some other aspects that are going to be happening during the week. This is not a very busy week astrologically. There's not a lot of planetary interactions, planetary aspects that are really happening this week. But what we do have happening are some really big things. Mercury retrograde. We've been leading up to it. We've been feeling it. But now we're going to be discussing pretty much just about everything I'd like to talk about it. Also, we're going to be talking about a sun, and then we're going to be talking about a black moon. And the black moon is kind of interesting because it's split between the two coasts, like East Coast, West Coast beef, right? Yeah, kind of sort of like that, right? So, anyway, let's talk about this Mercury retrograde. Here we got a nice little thing. I really like this thing. I don't even know what the heck it is. It looks like a crop circle, doesn't it? But yeah, I asked AI to give me something with Mercury retrograde, and it gave me this. And I kind of like it. It's kind of cool being almost burnt on the wood like that. And here we have our Mercury retrograde. So let's talk about this. Let's really get into this because we've got Mercury sitting at 22 degrees of Sagittarius, and that is where Mercury goes retrograde. Now, I am actually doing this during Mercury retrograde, so I don't think, I might have to do this 3 times. You never know. All right. So we have Mercury sitting at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, what we usually do is we look at, we tell you to look at your chart, okay? So an astrologer will say, look at your chart, and if you have any planets that are at 22 degrees, if you have any aspects or anything like that at 22 degrees of Sagittarius, this is an opportunity for you. This is where we're going to be starting our, Mercury starts as retrograde, and we'll go back through the zodiac to a certain point and then start to go forward again. And that's called the shadow, going back over the shadow. And this is where we do the repetition thing. We saw that where Mercury had an aspect with Uranus here. We saw where Mercury had an aspect with, say like Pluto. There may have been a sextile there. It was Saturn. There may have been another aspect there, right? So what we're really looking at is we're looking at where we go back and forth. Same thing with, we're going to have Mars going retrograde pretty soon too. So this is going to be interesting as we come up. So this is going to be a heavy retrograde season. The personal planets are the planets that are closest to the sun. So that is Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Okay, the closest to the Earth, closest to us. Those are personal planets. Jupiter's out there. Saturn's out there. Those are outer planets. And then the way outer planets are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and then all your Kuiper Belt objects, your Oort cloud objects, all those things, right? So let's just think about this right now. Mercury retrograde. What's the standard things that we do? Well, we tell you not to sign any new contracts. We tell you to try to avoid new purchases, big ticket purchases. We always have to buy stuff. We tell you to avoid the big stuff, the contracts, right? Because Mercury, mercantile, trade. Yes. Now, contracts, are they part of Libra? Yes. Is that under Venus's sway? Yes. But the negotiation that goes into those contracts, that's what we're talking about. Those negotiations can get really funky. Communications can get really funky. Cell phones get really funky. Technology, short-term travel, cars, stuff like that, breaking down, doing things, right? Just doing strange things. Just keep a little wacky note of what happens during these Mercury retrogrades. Are they impossible to navigate? No, they're not. And should you be afraid of them? Heck, no. They are manageable. You just have to not mind doing things over and over and over again. It's like a little Groundhog Day for you, only Mercury's retrograde. Now, if you notice on this chart, I also have the Sun, Mars, and the North Node all singled out. Well, that's because they're forming this grand trine. It's a trine in fire signs, okay? This is a fiery trine. We've got the Mars in Leo, we have the Sun in Sagittarius, and we have the North Node just about ready to dip out of Aries, huh? because they go backwards, right? So if Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, does that make when it's going backwards, is it the last sign? And will Pisces be the first sign for the nodal return? That's a really interesting thought. And it's been something that I've been kicking around for a while. And I just can't seem to come to put the end at the beginning, except maybe in an emotional way, maybe in a public way, right? The moon is the public. Those nodes are kind of like where it passes the equator of the Earth. What we're speaking of, because once it crosses that, the moon is at the equator. So you can see that we're headed for that. Oh, probably some point today. We have that moon right there in Libra. So it's at the south node in Libra. So we have our moon at the south node, and it's sextile the sun and Mars, and then trine north node on both ways. But the north and south node are always opposing. And then we have that nifty little trine between the sun and Mars. So what are our actions bringing us? Where are we going? What are we trying to do? Where are we headed with all of this, right? That's an interesting thought, because if you look at there's a kite in there, and basically the cross piece is this Mars and sun part, and then that part that's there, the tail, is the north node, and the head of the kite would be the moon and the south node. So where are we going? Where are we from? What are we doing? The public, it seems like we're just, it's almost like a backwards facing thing. It's kind of like a backslide. We're being asked to look at what we've given up. What is it that we've surrendered over the last couple of weeks, since the last time the sun was in this position, right? Because that's when we had the eclipse in Libra. We had that eclipse in Libra. We decided that we had to give up some stuff. We gave up some stuff. Did we give up too much? What did we give up? And where are we headed with it? Now, this will all switch around in a little bit, because that north node is where the sun will be heading, right? So we're going to have the next eclipse probably in Pisces. So that's what we're really looking at. We're looking at these things right here as it pertains to what it is that we're doing. Now, think about this. If that Libra axis right there, we had Mercury back there when we were doing the eclipse thing, right? Mercury's going to go back and look at all the events that happened up until a certain point, and we're going to just be reviewing that stuff and revising it. So if you haven't established a good enough base, or maybe your base needs more people involved, maybe it needs more publicity or something like that, this is a good way to reinforce that, because we can go back a little bit and think about how we're doing these things. And I think back is a good way with this retrograde, because we go backwards, and as we go backwards, we review, we re-examine, we revise. We're gonna emerge from this stronger in Sagittarius, and that's the sign of Jupiter. That's a sign of expansion, hope, and everything. Now, if you notice, it's almost to the point where that moon is just about trine with Jupiter, but not quite. It just fell out. It was there, and it will be there probably within another day. So this energy can carry. The moon can take the energy and bring it to Jupiter and give us that hope that we're going to need for the future once Mercury is direct, once again, in Sagittarius. I like that interpretation of it. I think it's a pretty cool one. We got the Sun trine Mars that we talked about. There's a little image for that. Now, that Sun trine Mars is actually exact on the 27th, so it's pretty close, but not quite. We get that fiery trine in there, and those grand trines, remember, easy energy, right? We talked about that. Sextiles, you work for, right? There's some work there. So we've got Mercury that's in a sextile relationship with dark moon Lilith and the moon, and that's really keying in on the desires that we had. But with Mercury retrograde, we're really looking at, did we do enough? Did we say enough? Have we dug down enough and communicated enough of what it is that we had to surrender in order to get what we want, right? Because that's what dark moon, she's that beat of her own drum. She's just there to really just be there and be respected. That's what we got to do, right? We're not taking orders. We're not going to do this. We're gonna have to go back and figure out where we draw the line. Pluto entering Aquarius. Yeah, we got it right there, right? But we have Mars close to the sun, and so that gives our actions a lot of power. We're feeling like we're stepping into our own, but it only lasts for a little bit because on the 5th, Mars goes retrograde. So then we're going to go back into Cancer, and we're going to take this back home with us, and we're going to go back to the emotional places and find out what the best way is to defend ourselves and be able to start from a place of empathy, understanding, and intuition. And that's where we really want to be once we have that Mars, fiery Mars back in that water sign, cooled right down, right? But now we cool down, but we're very, very, very just revising those actions that we had taken, so we can come out of this even stronger. And this is going to mesh well with the parts of Mars that is the ruler of a fixed water sign, meaning Scorpio. The traditional ruler of Scorpio is Mars. So, look, the kite of the North Node, South Node, and that brings us back. We already talked about that. Look, where are your actions taking you? And are they being done with your long-term goals and interests? And, will they be sufficiently met? Look, something needs tweaking and revisiting. And, we have to know that with the ruler of Libra, where that South Node is and the head of that kite is, in Capricorn, this means business, okay? This means business. We really need to take a look at that. Now, we have a new moon, black moon in Sagittarius. So there's it's a nifty little symbol, right? AI, it's fun. This is a West Coast, East Coast thing. There's one event, and we've got two interpretations for it because it's not going to repeat on the West Coast. This is their dark moon. This is their second chance. This is their introspective chance. Sagittarius is that expansive. It's that travel, that philosophy, those Jupiterian things. The rules, law, those things are Jupiter's purview. Sky travel, all of that stuff. This is what we're thinking about now with Mercury in Sagittarius, and believe it or not, there's a mutual reception there because Mercury is in Sagittarius and Jupiter is in Gemini. So we've got some of this good communication coming up. So this is a great chance for the folks on the West Coast to make their voices heard. They can really get out there and get concerned with communication. You just have to be careful because Mercury is retrograde. So you're not going to really be able to get your voice out there that much until after the 15th when Mercury starts to go direct, the 15th of December. So that's where we're really at with that. Now, once Mercury backs up to 9 degrees Sagittarius, look, that's where what are we talking about here? We're talking about our sun and moon, the new moon. That's right there. So that's at 9 degrees. Mercury's at 20 degrees right now. So Mercury will back up to that point, and that's where we're really going to be able to reflect on what happened with this moon, because this moon's going to be much more powerful for folks West Coast, like I said, because once you get beyond it, that's the 2 new moons in a month, and that's what makes it a black moon. Now, if you notice this chart is set for the East Coast where I live, and it's at 1:21 in the morning. Okay, so at 1:21 in the morning, what we really have is we have the dark moon, but that's on December 1st for us on the East Coast. That's where that moon comes in. So now that means that our black moon will actually be the new moon in Capricorn. Very different beast, right? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. That's all I have for you. I hope this made a little bit of sense. I hope that you get something from it. If you like it, please subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Do all the things you have to do. I'm feeling dark and mysterious today. So please, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate each and every single one of you. Love you all. And like we always say, happy astrocatting. And if you check it out, look, make it part of your life, okay? There's Mars right there saying bye-bye, okay? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye now.